I'm 60 years old, and I want you to really think about that for a moment. 60 years old. That's not ancient. That's not the end of the road. Most people at 60 are still active, still traveling, still playing with their grandchildren, still living. But I'm not living. Not really. I'm sitting in a recliner chair next to my bedroom window. I have a walker beside me, oxygen tubes in my nose, 7 different medications on my nightstand, and a mailbox at the end of my driveway that I haven't been able to reach in 8 months. 60 years old, and my body is that of a man 20 years older. My name is William, and I need to tell you my story, not because it's a great story, not because it has a happy ending, but because maybe, just maybe, if you hear what I did to myself, you won't do the same thing. I was a worker. That was my identity, my pride, my religion. From the time I was 18 years old and got my first job at a construction company, I worked hard, every day, no excuses, no complaints, no days off unless absolutely forced. I believed something with my whole heart. I believed that hard work was the answer to everything, that if I just worked hard enough, long enough, sacrificed enough, everything would be perfect. My family would have everything they needed. We'd be secure, comfortable, safe, and for a while, it seemed like I was right. Let me take you back to when it all began. I grew up in a working-class family in Michigan. My father worked in an auto plant. My mother cleaned houses. We weren't poor, but we were close to it sometimes. There were months when bills didn't get paid, months when dinner was thin, months when I watched my parents stress and struggle. I promised myself something when I was 15 years old. Standing in our small kitchen watching my mother cry over unpaid bills, I made a silent vow. I said to myself, I will never let my family live like this. I will work so hard that money will never be a problem, ever. That promise became my life's mission. When I was 22, I married my wife, Sandra. Beautiful woman, kind and warm and full of dreams. We had our whole lives ahead of us. We had 2 children, a daughter, Amy, born in 1988 when I was 26, a son, Ryan, born in 1991 when I was 29. By the time Ryan was born, I was working 60 hours a week, sometimes more. I'd leave the house at 6 a.m. and come back at 8 or 9 at night, 6 days a week, sometimes 7. Sandra never complained. At first, she understood. We were building something, saving, growing. I got promoted quickly. I was good at what I did. By the time I was 35, I'd moved from construction work into construction management. Running projects, managing teams, making real money. We bought a nice house, good neighborhood, good schools. Sandra could stay home with the kids. Everything was going according to my plan. But there were signs. Even back then, signs I ignored completely. I was 32 when I had my first health warning. Nothing dramatic, just chest tightness after a particularly stressful week. I went to the doctor. He said my blood pressure was high, very high for my age. He said, William, you need to reduce your stress levels. Exercise regularly. Get proper sleep. Your body is sending you a warning signal. I nodded, took the blood pressure medication he prescribed, and went straight back to work. Exercise? I didn't have time. Sleep? I'd sleep when the project was done. Stress reduction? That wasn't possible. Not with the deadlines I had. At 35, the doctor added cholesterol medication to my daily routine. At 38, I had what the doctors called a minor cardiac event, a small warning from my heart. Not a full heart attack, but close enough to scare Sandra terribly. She sat by my hospital bed and held my hands and said, William, please slow down. The money isn't worth this. We have enough. We have more than enough. I squeezed her hand and said, I'm fine. It was minor. The doctor said so. I just need to make a few lifestyle adjustments. I bought a treadmill, used it twice. Then it became an expensive clothes hanger in the corner of our bedroom. I went back to work. 60 hours a week, sometimes 70 during big projects, because stopping felt impossible. Slowing down felt like failing, like going backwards, like becoming the little boy in that Michigan kitchen watching his mother cry. I couldn't stop. I didn't know how. And my body kept warning me, kept sending signals, louder and louder each year. Headaches that lasted for days, back pain that never fully went away, fatigue so deep that I'd fall asleep in my car in the parking lot before driving home, shortness of breath climbing stairs. Every time I felt something, I'd take a pill and push through. That was my solution, always. Push through. Sandra watched it all. She watched me disappear into work for 3 decades. She watched our children grow up with a father who was physically present at weekends, but mentally always somewhere else. Always thinking about the next project, the next deadline, the next deal. She used to say, "William, Amy asked where you were at her school play today." I'd say, "I had a meeting, she understands." But Amy didn't understand. She was 7 years old. She didn't understand deadlines. She understood that her father wasn't there. Ryan's baseball games, Amy's dance recitals, first days of school, Christmases where I was on my phone more than I was present. I missed it all chasing something I already had. When I was 45, my company offered me a partnership. Full partner. My name on the building. Everything I'd worked for since I was 18 years old, standing in that Michigan kitchen. I said yes without hesitation. And the hours increased. If 60 hours a week was my normal before, now it was 70. 75. During major projects, sometimes 80. Sandra sat me down that year. Serious conversation, serious eyes. She said, "William, I need you to hear me, really hear me, not nod and go back to work. I need you to actually listen." I put my phone down, looked at her. She said, "I feel like I'm raising these children alone. I feel like I'm living in this house alone. I feel like I married a ghost. You're here, but you're not here. And I'm scared, not just for our marriage. I'm scared for your health. You look terrible. You're always exhausted. You never laugh anymore. When did you last laugh, William? When did you last enjoy a single day?" I didn't have an answer. She said, "I'm asking you to choose. Not between me and work. I'm asking you to choose between living and slowly dying at that desk." I told her things would change. That once this project was done, once this year was over, once we hit this particular financial target, things would slow down. She'd heard it before. She knew it was a lie. Not because I was dishonest, because I genuinely believed it every time I said it. I always believed the next milestone would be the one that finally let me breathe. But there was always another milestone. The children grew up. Amy went to college in 2006, Ryan in 2009. The house got quieter, and Sandra and I were suddenly alone together for the first time in 20 years. And we realized something painful. We didn't really know each other anymore. We'd been so busy, her with the children, me with work, that we'd grown into 2 separate people sharing a house and a last name. She tried. She suggested date nights, weekend trips, vacations. I'd agree. Then cancel. Work emergency. Deadline. Crisis. She stopped suggesting after a while. When I was 52, my body launched its biggest warning yet. I was in the office, working late. Everyone else had gone home. I was reviewing contracts for a major project, and suddenly the left side of my face went numb. My left hand wouldn't respond properly. The words on the page in front of me stopped making sense. I knew something was wrong. But do you know what I did? I sat there for 20 minutes trying to finish the paragraph I was reading. 20 minutes, with a stroke happening in my brain, trying to finish a work document. That tells you everything about who I had become. My assistant found me when she came back for her forgotten bag. She called the ambulance. The doctor said I was lucky. Lucky the stroke was mild. Lucky I got there when I did. Lucky I didn't die alone in that office over a contract that nobody would remember in 5 years. Sandra came to the hospital. She didn't cry. She was past crying. She sat in the chair beside my bed and looked at me with this expression I'll never forget. Not anger, not sadness. Just a kind of exhausted, heartbroken acceptance. She said, "William, what is it going to take? What does your body have to do to make you stop?" I had no answer. The stroke left some lasting effects. Mild weakness in my left hand. Some cognitive fatigue. The doctors put me on more medications, told me in very clear terms that if I didn't make radical lifestyle changes, the next stroke would likely be fatal or leave me severely disabled. I took 6 weeks off, longest I'd taken since my honeymoon, and in those 6 weeks, sitting at home recovering, I looked around at my life. The big house felt empty. Amy lived in Boston, Ryan in Chicago. They called. They visited when they could. But they had their own lives, lives I'd missed the construction of. Sandra moved through the house quietly, taking care of me dutifully, but there was a wall between us, built brick by brick over 30 years of absence. I tried to talk to her, really talk. She listened. She was kind. She always was. But one evening she said something quietly that shattered something in me. She said, "William, I love you. I've always loved you. But I've spent 30 years being alone inside this marriage. And I don't know how to be anything else now. We're strangers who happen to share a home." I went back to work after 6 weeks, fewer hours this time, only 50 a week. I told myself that was progress. It wasn't progress. It was still too much. My body was broken, and I was still pushing it. 3 years later, at 55, the second stroke came. This one was worse. I woke up in the hospital with Sandra holding my hand and Amy and Ryan standing at the foot of my bed with fear written across their faces. The doctor was direct. He said, "Mr. William, your body is failing. Your heart is weakened. Your arteries are damaged from decades of high blood pressure and stress. If you continue working at any significant capacity, you will not survive to see 65. I was 55 years old, and a doctor was telling me I had used up my body, completely, totally, used it up, like a machine I'd run without maintenance for 40 years until the engine finally gave out. I'm 60 years old now. I was forced into retirement at 57. The partnership dissolved my share when it became clear I could no longer contribute. The business I'd given 35 years of my health to moved on without me. Within 6 months, it was as if I'd never been there at all. That's what work does. It moves on, always, without guilt, without looking back. I sit in this recliner by my window every day. My walker is beside me. My medications are lined up on my nightstand like a small army. I have a home nurse who comes 3 times a week to check my vitals and help with things I can no longer do alone. My mailbox is at the end of the driveway, maybe 30 meters from my front door. I haven't been able to walk there in 8 months. 30 meters. And I can't make it. Sandra is still here. She stayed. Through everything she stayed. But what we have now is more like caregiving than marriage. She loves me. I know that. But the partnership we should have built over 35 years was never built. And at 60, building it now is harder than I ever imagined. Amy visits every few months. She has her own family now, a husband, 2 children. My grandchildren who I can barely play with because I don't have the strength or the breath. Ryan calls every Sunday. Good son. But I can hear it in his voice sometimes. A kind of sadness. A kind of grief, not for what he's losing now, for what he never had. A father who was truly present. A father who showed up, not just physically, but completely. I gave my children financial security. Good schools, nice holidays, everything material they needed. But I wasn't there. Not really. Not in the way that counts. Last month, Amy brought my grandchildren to visit. My grandson, Little Thomas. He's 5 years old. He wanted to go outside and play in the yard. I looked at him, this beautiful little boy with his whole life ahead of him, and I couldn't get up from this chair to go outside with him. His mother took him outside, and I watched through this window, and I cried. Not quietly. I sobbed. The kind of crying that comes from somewhere so deep it hurts your chest. Because in that moment, I understood everything. All those hours, all those projects, all those deadlines and meetings and late nights and skipped vacations and missed school plays and canceled dinners. For what? To sit in this chair at 60 years old and watch my grandson play in the yard through a window because I destroyed my body chasing something that was never going to make me happy anyway. My neighbor, a man named Frank, he's 62, 2 years older than me. He retired last year, healthy, active. He goes hiking on weekends, plays tennis, travels with his wife. Last month, he took his grandchildren to Disney World. We used to work at the same company years ago. He left at 45, said he wanted to enjoy his life while he still could. I thought he was foolish, lazy. I thought he was giving up. Now I watch him from this window and I understand. He wasn't giving up. He was choosing. Choosing life over output. Choosing health over achievement. Choosing his family over a business that would survive without him anyway. He came to visit me last week. Good man. He sat with me for an hour. He said, "William, I think about you a lot. I think about how easily I could have been you. I almost was. Remember when they offered us both the partnership at the same time?" I nodded. He said, "I turned it down. My wife and I had a deal. We said we'd work hard, but we'd protect our health. We'd take vacations. We'd say no when no needed to be said. We'd remember that we're human beings, not human doings. Human beings, not human doings." That phrase hit me somewhere deep, because that's what I forgot. For 40 years, I forgot that I was a human being. I turned myself into a machine, a producing, achieving, working machine, and I ran that machine into the ground. My doctor, a kind woman named Dr. Patel, she said something to me at my last appointment that I think about every day. She said, "William, the saddest cases I see are not the people who got sick through bad luck. The saddest cases are the people who saw every warning sign, heard every alarm, and chose to ignore it. Because those people did this to themselves, and they know it, and that knowledge is its own kind of suffering." She was talking about me. We both knew it. I did this to myself. Nobody forced me. Nobody held a gun to my head. Sandra begged me to stop. My doctors warned me for decades. My body screamed at me through strokes and cardiac events and chronic pain. I ignored all of it because I thought I was invincible, because I thought success was worth any price, because I thought I could work hard now and live later. But later never comes. It keeps getting pushed back, and then one day your body decides for you, and later becomes never. So let me speak to you now, you watching this. Maybe you're 30, maybe 40, maybe you're working 60 hours a week and telling yourself it's temporary, telling yourself just one more year, just until this project is done, just until you hit this target. I was you. I said every single one of those things. Please hear me. Your body is not a machine. It has limits. It sends signals. And if you ignore those signals long enough, it will stop sending them. Not because everything is fine, because it has run out of ways to warn you. No promotion is worth your health. No business deal is worth your heart. No amount of money in the bank can buy you back the ability to walk to your mailbox, to play with your grandchildren, to hold your wife's hand on a long walk, to simply breathe without tubes in your nose. I know because I tried. I have money in the bank, a paid-off house, a successful career that ended in a hospital bed, and I would trade every single dollar. every award, every achievement, every project I ever completed. For one healthy morning, just one morning where I could wake up without pain, where I could walk outside and feel the sun without getting winded, where I could be the grandfather that little Thomas deserves. Just one morning. But I can't buy that. Not for any price. So please, I'm begging you, rest. Not when you're rich. Not when the project is done. Not someday. Rest now. Today. Go home on time. Take the vacation. Miss the meeting if you have to. Say no to the extra hours. Walk, sleep, breathe, eat properly. See your doctor. Actually listen to what he tells you. Choose your health before your health makes the choice for you. Because I'm 60 years old. I should have decades of living ahead of me. Instead, I sit by this window, watching the world through glass, watching my grandson play in a yard I can no longer reach, watching my mailbox from a distance of 30 meters that might as well be 30 miles. I worked 60 hours a week for 40 years, and I have nothing to show for it that matters. Don't make my mistake. Your health is everything. Protect it like your life depends on it, because it does. It really does.